An iconic Canadian brand just did something unthinkable. And what it reveals about Canada's economy should terrify every citizen. Crown Royal, the whiskey that symbolized Canadian pride for nearly a century, is shutting down its bottling plant and moving operations to the United States. 160 workers just lost their livelihoods. An entire town lost its economic heartbeat. And the Canadian government's response? Doug Ford smashing bottles on camera while offering zero solutions. This isn't just about one factory closing. This is about a systemic collapse that's driving Canadian businesses across the border at an alarming rate. What's happening right now in Amherstburg exposes the brutal truth about Canada economy problems that leadership refuses to address. And if you think this stops with Crown Royal, you're not paying attention to the warning signs. Let me show you exactly what's unfolding. Because while politicians perform outrage for cameras, the fundamentals driving Canadian business closures keep getting worse. And Crown Royal Canada is just the beginning of an exodus nobody wants to admit is happening. The shock began in Amherstburg, a town that built its identity around the Crown Royal bottling plant for nearly a century. This wasn't just another workplace. It was the engine that paid mortgages, raised families, and created generational stability. Then overnight, the announcement dropped. The plant was closing. Jobs were gone. Bottling operations were moving to the United States. No transition, no gradual wind down, just a closed door and a severed lifeline for 160 workers. Here's what makes this gut-wrenching. Nothing was failing. The whiskey is selling. The brand is thriving. Demand hasn't disappeared. The only thing that changed was the reality that Canada economy problems made staying there impossible. Crown Royal Canada didn't leave because workers failed. It left because the system around them made operating there unsustainable. Crown Royal closure exposes the harsh mathematics driving Canadian business closures. Running a factory in Canada isn't just expensive anymore, it's exhausting. Energy costs are climbing relentlessly. Taxes keep rising. Companies navigate layers of paperwork just to stay open. Eventually, the math stopped making sense. Crown Royal Canada did what every business does when survival is on the line. It chose the environment where it could breathe. Across the border, the United States spent the last decade becoming a magnet for industry. Lower taxes, faster approvals, fewer regulatory traps, clear paths to growth. The kind of stability corporations build long-term decisions around. When Crown Royal realized it could save millions by bottling in the U.S. instead of Ontario, the decision wasn't dramatic. It was inevitable. This represents one of the most visible Canadian business closures in recent history, but it's not isolated. Canada economy problems are forcing entire sectors to reconsider whether staying is viable. Crown Royal closure happened because approximately $8 million in wage savings outweighed generations of loyalty and local legacy. A community that gave the brand its identity was reduced to a line in a cost report. What's staggering is the scale of business Canada provided. Ontario has been one of Diageo's strongest revenue engines, with the LCBO purchasing hundreds of millions in their products annually. Crown Royal Canada wasn't a background label. It was front and center, a dependable profit stream. Yet the parent company walked away over savings small enough to get lost in a quarterly review. While Canada was tightening regulations and layering new compliance rules, the United States was doing the opposite: lower corporate taxes, cheaper operational costs, government that treats industry as something to protect, not pressure. That's not ideology, that's direct financial advantage measured quarterly. When Crown Royal executives compared environments, the decision was brutally clear. Canada economy problems aren't about lack of talent or work ethic. They're about systems that treat business growth like a threat while competitors treat it like national strategy. The border didn't move. The incentives did, and Crown Royal Canada followed the incentives south. In Amherstburg, Crown Royal closure didn't feel like a corporate update. It felt like losing the town's heartbeat. The plant was the rhythm of daily life. Entire families worked there across 3 generations. Workers weren't replaced because they failed. They were replaced because a spreadsheet said someone cheaper existed elsewhere. The town now faces silence it's never known, forced to redefine itself from scratch. When the shutdown became public, Doug Ford's response looked more like theater than governance. He stepped before cameras, poured out Crown Royal, and declared he'd pull the brand from LCBO shelves. It was loud and dramatic, but it didn't protect a single job or change a single boardroom decision. One leader shouting with no plan while Canadian business closures accelerate. The reaction wasn't focused on fixing conditions that drove Crown Royal closure. It focused on punishing the company for leaving. Instead of asking why businesses no longer feel safe investing in Canada, government chose to perform outrage. No policy was introduced to make Ontario competitive. No plan to reduce operational costs. No discussion about cutting approval timelines. Nothing that would make the next company reconsider leaving. Meanwhile, Mark Carney, the strategist behind Canada's economic framework, said nothing. No explanation, no reassurance, no acknowledgement of the damage. That silence reveals leadership present for ribbon cuttings, but absent when communities face crisis. Canada economy problems continue while the architect of that economy steps back. Crown Royal Canada is not leaving alone. Companies in manufacturing, food production, packaging, and processing are moving operations to the United States because cost structure and regulatory environment are more favorable. Crown Royal closure didn't create this trend. It exposed it. The concern isn't the plant that closed, but the companies quietly assessing whether they're next. This represents more than Canadian business closures. It's a systematic failure. Ontario recently tried restricting U.S. alcohol imports, signaling strength. Now Crown Royal Canada is moving bottling operations to that very market. The move exposes how little leverage Canada actually has. The province tried showing it could influence markets. The market responded by taking one of Canada's most recognizable brands across the border. Across the country, reaction isn't just anger. It's exhaustion. People are watching factories close, prices climb, housing become unreachable, and now a national brand relocate. There's growing sense that things Canadians once counted on, stable work, affordable living, reliable economy, are no longer guaranteed. The frustration about Crown Royal closure isn't only about one company leaving, it's about what that decision represents. If even Crown Royal Canada is gone, what's next? Canada economy problems keep accelerating while leadership offers theater instead of solutions. This is the reality Canadian business closures reveal. A system that celebrates success but can't confront decline. What do you think? Are Canadian business closures inevitable, or can policies change fast enough to stop the exodus? Drop your thoughts below. If this opened your eyes, smash that like button and subscribe. This story is far from over.